few weeks I've been working on refinishing the woodwork in this dining room, and the last frontier is these drawer fronts. Here we have the before, and down here is the after. Boy, I want all of them to look like this one down here. And so, well, I'm going to take you through the process. The first step is, well, I need to remove the handles off it, get all the hardware off so I can refinish the woodwork. And, well, it sounds easy enough. Just take your screwdriver and unscrew the screws, and then the hardware's off. But, well, this hardware is nickel-plated steel, and what happens with steel over 100 years is rust occurs, and sometimes the rust just kind of, can I show it? I've had to drill these screws. They refused to accept the screwdriver and unscrew. I don't know if I showed it. Let's just pull out the the one untouched drawer that I did, and show you how I do that. Is I grab a screwdriver, of course, and I've got to look for, boy, I know, just looking at this thing, I know it's going to be trouble. There's rust, it's looking rough. Anyway, I try to find where the slot is. There it is. Take a hammer and on the slot. Got to be right on the slot. Smack that thing. And just hope it will turn. And it's not. Is it? Let's see. Yes, it's turning. Is it? No, didn't turn. So, like I said, this one's going to be trouble. So what I got to do with that is I got a skinny little drill bit here, and got to start a little pilot hole, put my drill on the slow speed, and we're just going to start a little pilot here. A little more. Getting a drill bit to go into a slotted screw is not so easy. And of course, I want to try to stay in the center of that screw. Alright, once I've established a pilot hole, then it's time to change to a bigger bit. 1/8 inch bit. And we're going to put that in. Boy, I broke off a bit working on one of these screws. Oh, come on. There we go. You don't want broken bits. Anyway, we'll start. I think I need to spend a little more time with the smaller pilot bit. Anyway, enough about that. This thing's going to be a pain in the butt to get this handle off. The other one over here, maybe I'll get lucky and get 1 or 2 screws out. I don't know. We're looking at rust. First thing I do is smack it with a hammer. And then, Jesus Christ. Apparently I saved the most difficult drawer for last. And boy, this thing is going to take me a goddamn hour just to get the handles off. But I will. Anyway, we're going to move on. I showed you what okay. So, let's move over to the next step in the process. And that is, once the hardware is off, then the first thing I do is I take my paint scraper and scrape on it. And make some, and there was a screw. Apparently there's a trace of that screw left. Anyway, scrape the bulk of the finish off of this thing so that I find doing that really saves on the sandpaper, because the step after that is going to be taking the sandpaper and sanding over the whole thing. Like so. And I have found that what I'm using here is 80 grit sandpaper in my orbital sander, and I'm going through pretty much one of these discs on every single drawer front. And well, we'll get that cleaned up. And then the next step after that, we need to move on, of course, is after it's sanded, it looks kind of like this. Are we in there? Is it in picture? Jesus Christ, I don't know. There we go. So here's after it's all been cleaned up, and then the one below it, after having done all that sanding, then what I do is I take the wood stain and put a coat of stain on it, and then it looks like that. Well, after having stained it, time to move back to the next step is putting polyurethane on it. So I put a coat of polyurethane on this. This has one coat of polyurethane, but geez, it feels kind of rough. So what I've been doing is taking some 320 grit sandpaper and sanding it. Yeah. Boy, I'm being awkward here. Of course, I don't do this in place to actually sand these things. I pull the drawer out and I stand it up and I do it on the, but just for the video, we're just doing it like this. So, putting a coat, what am I talking about? Just sanding out all the roughness with 320 grit sandpaper, and then finally, after having done that, then I can put a second coat of polyurethane on it, and we get back to the finished product. Well, with the finished product, what I want to do is put the handles back on. This has 2 coats of polyurethane. If I were really a perfectionist, I would probably do 3 or 4 coats, but geez, it just feels nice and good enough for what we're doing here. But something I want to do when I reinstall these handles, well, of course, I don't want to have this nasty old look on it. What I want to do is clean them up. So I take a little plastic wheel that, well, geez, I can run that thing over my fingers with no harm, but boy, it does clean up this stuff nicely. And I take probably 10 minutes or so on each one of these handles, and with the I clean them up to look like well, not quite like new, but pretty darn close. And of course, Also, the screw heads, I clean those up as well. And when I install these screws, let's bring you in close. Something I like to do is index the screws. Notice all the slots are facing in the same direction. Likewise over here. And, well, I think since I've dropped the darn camera, I think I've probably said quite enough on this subject, so we're just going to let it go at that.